Oh no, it's not an IPA at all. It's much closer to Pils or Kolsch style. It's a little more fresh. I'm not down with IPAs and ales so much since my 20s, man.
Whoa. Wow, I hope you brought enough to share. That's what we want.
If only.
Fellas, I want to welcome everybody to this live stream. We got two amazing artists here today, and we're just talking about, what we're drinking, basically, for this evening.
I have nothing. I drank everything already.
Derek Thompson and Robert Valley, my friends, thank you for coming. Like, you guys are my idols. I love you. And the fact that the stuff that you do, I think people should know already what you've been working on. But I guess I want to introduce you guys. If those of you who don't know, Derek is a animation supervisor, story supervisor at Pixar. And then Robert, I guess you need no introduction. Now you're an Emmy Award winning. I want to hear all about this. That you just got an Emmy for ICE for Love, Death, Robots, and you guys are amazing. So I guess I wanted to start out, like, maybe you can talk about how you know each other and maybe like when that all started, and then we can go into we can just let it roll from there. But there's a bunch of things I want to hear about, updates from each one of you and all that. But how about there? We'll start it on like how you guys actually met. Where's that come from?
Derek, you want to tell the story, and then I'll tell my version?
I love it. That sounds like a plan.
Okay.
So I was working at ILM in the visual effects, art department, and ILM was pretty much, when I started, like 1 year off of year and a half off of Jurassic Park's release. So CGI visual effects was just upended, super exciting time, and I got into the ILM studio doing visual effects storyboard for Spawn, the adaptation of McFarlane's comic, and I was working on Men in Black, and I did creature design for that. So I was at ILM for a short period, and Toy Story came out, 1995, and that rattled the industry in this whole other way. And one of the things that started to happen at ILM was this sort of branch towards an exploration of digital features. Could ILM produce something that wasn't about photoreal animation, or was applying the ILM visual sort of styles to long form? And so I was involved in a few digital feature projects that came. One was a project called Martian Agent, which was written by Michael Chabon, who's gone on to become a novelist. And it was kind of like a colonial Britain on Mars. BKO and I did concept and design. I was the effects art director for a 30-second test.
Yeah, Brian Keller Mcconnell is an amazing artist that we've all known and worked with.
Brian tomorrow when we do talk. Anyhow, Martian Agent was being directed by Jan de Bont, who was hot off of Speed.
Right.
Was directing Speed 2. He'd done Twister. ILM did the work. Super hot. And as Martian Agent was starting to cook, then Speed 2 came out, and Universal Studios had a pivot. The project got killed. And meanwhile, while Martian Agent was kind of crumbling, two other digital features were getting started. One was called XO, which was like a Helen of Troy robot gladiators thing in space with Spielberg producing, and a whole art department got hired, all these amazing talented people, and I was over in these trailers. And concurrent with that, the Frankenstein digital feature was getting started, and that was a whole bunch of other artists. BKO started early. I was on XO. And Robert got brought in along with a whole bunch of key story artists on Frankenstein out in these trailers. And they pretty much were separate from ILM as a place. And it was like this Old West pioneer vibe where like no rules kind of applied that were happening in the main building. They were like carted deliveries of cases of beer and all kinds of food and stuff, and amazing talent. And between XO and Frankenstein, I met more concentrated, like hardcore talent. I met with and worked with Ryan Church, Eric Tiemens, Ian McCaig, Matt Codd, and then on the Frankenstein side, Tony Stockey, Robert Valley, Jamie Baker, Steve Purcell, Delia Gosman, John Stevenson, like all just crazy hardcore. Garrett Sheldrew,
right? Who's an artist at Pixar. Bosco.
Just like Jamie Baker, just this whole like huge amount of talent.
Yeah.
You guys were legendary. There's stories about that I've heard of.
This started a period of time. So the last thing I'll say, and then I want to hear Robert's version, was we're in this kind of outpost pioneer land. And really, XO, the Gladiator project, ran into trouble. There was like some guy got hired who was the nephew of the executive producer who did the treatment, and things sucked, and all this expense had been happening, and then they killed the project. And so all of us on XO, disbanded. But because I was an ILM employee, I folded into Frankenstein, and that's when I really got to meet and know Robert. And I was working between the art department, doing design and creature shit, and then I jumped into story. And my first story scene, one of my first story scenes was having to do fixes on a Robert Valley sequence called Electrode Explodes.
Wow.
And I think even though I'd met him and had a beer and, started to have a social relationship, I feel like I didn't really meet Robert until I had to dig into his sequence work. And it was Electrode Explodes that's when I dialed into another aspect of him. And we've been friends since then. So that's my memory of it.
Yeah, wait, I want to hear Robert's version. Is that right?
It's probably totally like, it's going to be different.
Because I heard you don't like people cleaning up your work, right? That's one of the Robert Valley stories that I've heard, that you like to do and supervise your own stuff. So what was it like with that, with Derek? Do you even remember that when you started?
That's what you heard about me? Yeah. I don't like cleaning up my work.
What was it? You had the nickname. Can I bring this up? They used to call you Rub Out Valley because you would rub out people's work and draw over it because you wanted it to be a certain way.
I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know that he was.
Yeah. Victor and a couple other friends who were assistants to Robert remember those days pretty well.
Okay. No, this is my memory of what happened. Okay. We worked at Colossal. We were in San Francisco, and that consisted of me, Tony, Jamie.
Yeah, Tony Stockey was the director on Box Trolls. Jamie Baker, the story artist at Pixar.
Garrett, and we were like the San Francisco crew, and somehow Tony Stockey got this. He was the head of the story department up there at ILM on the Frankenstein job, and so he basically said, "Come on, everybody, we got a job up in ILM." And so we were all like, "Oh, yay!" So we all started commuting up there, right? And we were in these weird trailers. And then we met all the ILM folks, Brian and Derek and, everybody else that you listed off, Eric Tiemans and all this incredible talent. Ryan Church, amazing. And we were all young back then. But, that job fizzled out.
This is circa, just to paint a picture for the audience, this is circa 1998.
Yeah.
This is going down. Go ahead, Rob.
Well, that job fizzled out, without going into any details.
But it was a long run. What? You were up there a year and a half, easy, a year plus? That was a long
run. And then we retreated back to San Francisco. And after the whole experience, the only thing that we really got as a result of that whole experience is we brought Derek back to our studio in San Francisco. That was awesome. The result of the whole thing. I mean, we had a studio. We went away for a while. We came back, but we came back with Derek, and that was it.
So, just for people's information, by the way, there's a ton of people that are on here now. We're going to have a time for Q&A. So I want to give everybody a chance. They're super excited to have you guys here. By the way, I'm excited to have you here. But you ran a studio which is also legendary in San Francisco, Maverick Studios, which a lot of people that we know kind of came in and out of it. I got there later in the game, but maybe you could talk a little bit about that. What was that? How did that start? How did you guys work together there at Mavericks, and what were you doing?
Well, for me, the timeline went like this. Broke ass in Canada. I drove my car down to San Francisco, to San Diego. I was trying to get a job. Comic-Con, got nothing. Came back through LA, got nothing. Met Peter Chung. Peter Chung did Eon Flux. I said, "Hey, you want to see my stuff?" He looked at it. He says, "I'm going to give you a job. You got to go to San Francisco, and I'll show up with some work later on." I came back through San Francisco. Everybody was expecting me because Peter gave me everybody the heads up. Everybody went through my portfolio, my reel, pretty rough, man. I was like, it was not a nice experience. And then eventually Peter showed up with some work, and we did some Flux stuff, but the majority of the work I was doing back then was commercial work. I cut my teeth on advertising, which was great. Every 3 months you're on one job and you're doing a different art style, and then 3 months later you're doing a different art style. So we did the whole gamut from like realistic to graphic to cartoony, the whole fucking thing. Cut your teeth. It was a perfect way to cut your teeth. And then at a certain point, Colossal decided to file Chapter 11.
Right, it went belly
up. What happened? And then there's tons of work around, tons of Nike and tons of folk work and this sort of stuff. And so, I had a girlfriend back then who was kind of a go-getter. And I said, why don't we start our own animation studio? Because there's lots of animation. Because there's lots of animation equipment for sale.
Right.
And so she goes, okay. So we bought about 15 or 12 tables, animation desks. Right. And we got this little studio in the south of Market in the very gay part of town. I'm not talking like the nice gay, talking about the hairy, like aggressive gay part of town in San Francisco. We were just around the corner from the Stud,
legendary bar in San Francisco, right?
I don't even know if they're there anymore.
Yeah, are they there anymore?
They were in trouble, but they may be holding on. They still may be
holding on.
All right.
Okay.
We were off a back alley.
I got two little anecdotes to that. Is Mavericks kind of ended up, people moved in out and stuff. Eventually, it kind of just disappeared. I still have the animation discs from when all of that. I still have them. I got to do something with them because they're, from you guys, they're legendary there. And I also have Tony Stocky's storyboard books that nobody wanted when Mavericks ended up. I looked at this like, oh man, I'll take this. So I had to dig those out of the archives, but I have his photocopied like sequences that he did from Frankenstein that he collected.
Like Garrett's sequences and
all of you guys. So yours, Roberts, Derek's in there, Vasco.
Book. Oh my god!
You know what? At the end of the day, Garrett could have storyboarded the whole thing. A masterpiece. Yeah. We would have just been there going, "Go, Garrett, go!"
Just cut a reel of his drawings in with music and timing. Like Garrett was. That was my exposure to Garrett. First time I met Garrett Childress.
Garrett Childress. So this is. Let me give some background. He's a story artist now at Pixar, right? He's still there, right?
Yeah, he's still there. Now I'd never seen his stuff, although I didn't realize I actually had, because one of my favorite Aeon Flux episodes was an episode that Garrett boarded, animated, did the whole thing himself with she keeps dying in the elevator over and over, and there's
exactly
Aeon Fluxes.
That's right? A masterpiece.
A masterpiece, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, Garrett's stuff on Frankenstein was just stunningly beautiful, and he was doing all this tonal stuff to kind of have fidelity to the universal monster look. It was the kind of art, an artist encounter that for me shifted how I drew and how I approached my own methods. And every once in a while, those kind of artists come along, and Robert too totally changed how I drew.
You guys are amazing. Yes,
well,
Robert.
Look, for all those people out there, I don't know how many people are listening to this, but
there's thousands. No, I'm just kidding. But okay, go ahead.
Garrett Sheldrew is the most talented person you've never heard of.
Right. He has no social media presence. He's not out there. I swear, I got to get him somehow on some kind of live stream or podcast, because I know of him because of you guys. I've met him a couple times.
Yeah.
But yeah, and Robert, one day I'll just say this little anecdote. I remember that you were commenting on some of his sketches. You're like, wow, you said something like, oh, this guy's really good. And I'm thinking to myself, I was like, you motherfucker, you're amazingly talented, and you're looking at this other person's work. And I was like, wow. I was just in awe, so impressed that you guys admire each other, or you're around the circle,
Well, I don't know if Garrett was ever admiring my drawings, but I sure was admiring his drawings.
Well, no, your drawings you shut up. Your drawings are amazing. And I feel very privileged to have witnessed what I feel is a Robert Valley molting, pupating, cocoon transformation period, because during the time I was working with Robert on Frankenstein through those Mavericks years, Robert did Peter, etc. He did Sex Police. He did Massive Swerve, and then did a music video of Massive Swerve. And then we first got a tape at Old Maverick of Gorillas, this Clint Eastwood video on 3/4 inch that we popped in at Mavericks and watched like over and over and over and over and over and over.
And who was on that next plane to London?
Yeah, Robert Valley.
Into London.
And then Robert doing the graphic novel, The Parasite Cigarette. And in the years I've known you, Robert, I feel really lucky to have witnessed that amplification, that pivot of your style, that focusing of your technique, what you're able to get with Photoshop, the animate, like just beyond. And so that was really something to witness.
Well, you know what happened is I was on that plane to London and I knocked on the Gorillas door. There was a Gorillas door.
Was that Passion Pictures back then, or was it like Candleland and that was it?
There was Passion Pictures.
Okay.
And then around the side in the alley was the Gorillas door.
Okay.
So I showed up in London. I went.
That tape, the power of that tape, that object came into Mavericks that day. Everybody was rattled. I mean, I brought it to ILM. I was at ILM full time. I brought the tape to ILM and showed
that Gorillas Clint Eastwood. That
had a ripple effect. And there's occasionally those things that get handed along, like the tape cassette of the South Park Santa, Christmas short.
Yeah,
it was like one of those. But a couple other Mavericks, old school Mavericks memories I just wanted to throw out there.
That's when things used to go viral on VHS.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Make copies of
think about it. If you asked anybody that was in the room that day, I think Vaughn Ross was there. I think Jamie Baker was there. I think
Victor was there.
Victor was there. Maybe Stu, maybe not. You ask any of those people today about that moment, watching that tape for the first time, you'll get stories. But I wanna remind you, Robert, of a couple other Mavericks memories, and then see if that triggers any other good anecdotes. When I think of Mavericks on 9th Street, I think of Shaolin Soccer and Gamera 3. I think of Soul Calibur throwdowns, and I think of the Hatchet Man, and I think about how many bikes got stolen from our hallway. Left the fucking door open and didn't put locks on bikes.
Yes, bikes got stolen. I had bikes stolen. I'm still mad at Bosco for bringing video games in the studio.
You played the hell out of that.
Bosco in director at Lucasfilm.
I just showed my son Shaolin Soccer about a week ago. He fucking loved it.
That's amazing. This might be a good segue because, one, I want to ask Robert. It's like, okay, we were talking about this. I didn't realize you told us that you just won an Emmy. Like, that's amazing. You probably have a collection of awards. You probably don't even care about these things, but you're nominated for an Oscar. You have a bunch of these trophies over there. And then now, first let's talk about the Emmys. I want to talk about, or at least, if you want to reveal what you're working on now. And I heard that you're doing some kind of amazing stuff with NFTs. So I'm curious.
Yeah.
But how's that Emmy stuff? What happened there? That's ICE, right?
It was ICE. It was for the second season of Love, Death, and Robots. And what's funny about that is I did Zima Blue for the first season of Love, Death, and Robots.
Yeah.
It was what it was. I mean, I really like the story.
I think that's people's favorites. That's one of those.
Season. What are you talking about?
It was a great story. I mean, I didn't write the story, but it was great.
It was fine. It was well done.
It was
amazingly executed. Yeah.
Twilight Zone a little bit, and then I saw the rollout on Netflix, which was robust. It was a robust rollout, and then I saw Alberto just like cleaning up with holding awards like this, and
Alberto Mielgo, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, wow, that's amazing. And then I sent an email to Tim Miller's wife, Jennifer Miller, saying, look, I understand what Love, Death, and Robots is just about, it's basically heavy metal. So what's good about it is there's lots of different artists and you're showcasing different people. I get it. But if you're in a situation where you need a director, I'm going to put my hand up and throw my hat in the ring. And they're like, okay, thanks. I appreciate it. and that was it, right?
Okay, right.
And then sometime later, I got an email from, Blur, and they said, look, I think we got a script for you. And I went, okay. But, the only reason that happened is because I sent that email out.
Really? They remembered you. She remembered you on this one.
Yeah. I showed,
awesome.
I put the impetus forward to, I'm interested in doing more of this stuff. If you need somebody to step in as a director, I'm ready to go. And then that happened. That's a lesson to be learned right there, right?
Oh, totally.
So I got, they sent me a script and I read it, and it was challenging. The script was pretty challenging in a way. And I just remember, this is the meeting I had with the crew. I said, look, you guys, I've seen what happens if you do your best work on this platform. Good things will happen. If we do our best work on this platform, good things will happen.
Yeah.
That's what I said. And then Daryl said, yes, but it will only happen to you because you're the director. And I was like, come on, man. It will happen to all of us. And he's like, yeah, whatever. So anyways, we did it. And, our crew of people, it's all about the team you put together, right?
Yeah. Well, you got an Emmy out of it. And actually, I was surprised to watch it. And I was watching the short. And I kid you not, I was like, man, this is, well, one, I thought it was awesome, right? And then I was like, whoa, this whale is really cool. and then I watched the whole way. Of course, the credits roll, right? And I was just like, of course. Like, how did that happen? Derek, you had some involvement there. I don't know how much you want to reveal there, or what happened with that whale. How did that come to collaborate there?
Oh, just to tee Derek up here. I was doing some monster designs, and they were going, yeah, that's not good. It's not good. And then I had to dig deep down and go, who's the monster guy? And that's Derek. And so we gave Derek a call, and Derek delivered in a huge way.
You designed that whale, right? And I swear, I was like, I know this artist. I know this looks familiar.
Rob had already done a pretty impressive, I thought, compelling concept piece of like, oh yeah, that's like it. It was kind of a little more Lovecraftian. There was a sort of the squid dimension to it, and Rob was like, we're not reinventing the wheel, but we just need to kind of take it over the finish line.
There were some parameters. There were some parameters,
and so I
But you know what?
Go ahead, Rob.
Taking something and bringing it across the finish line isn't as easy as you say it is. It's actually a very difficult brief. It is.
It is.
You got that thing across the finish line.
Yeah, we focused on a concentrated kind of concept reconfiguration, a couple days of sketches, shapes, silhouettes, zeroed in on a handful of versions that we were excited about, had our preferences, and then that went to Blur. There was opinions. We did some modifications. We started focusing towards head shape more than body shape. And then there was a lot in the treatment of the bioluminescent patterns, the armor, because the whales were visually displaying the fireworks, a spectacle that's visual, that's like the punctuation, exclamation point on the sequence, and the
like a big ejaculation.
Well, or something, but the concept design required not just the form, the silhouette, but also what's the lighting, how's it going to move to camera. So it was kind of like a little bit of the concept design, and then what's the look, and then how is that showcased in camera. And I think, Rob's animatic, his team's animatic was like super blown out, like amazing. And it was one of those instances where it's like, well, we've got 1, 2, maybe 3 shots that will be involved with the design. So it was like, designing to camera was another piece of it. And that was like probably one of the last days. Am I remembering it right, Rob?
Yeah. And you know what Derek is? His moniker is Derek Monster.
Derek Monster. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember in those days,
Because you're a creature designer.
Yeah, creature designer. We used to go to San Diego. Derek used to have this Derek Monster book, which was a monster for every day of the year. And you would literally have 365 monster designs.
Yeah, and they're all amazing. I have a bunch of those on my shelf.
I know you got a bunch of those. Right?
That was hard. Once you set up that practice and then you don't deliver it, there's so much self-loathing that I think the last edition, 2009, that's like a self-publishing is like a recipe for self-loathing. I mean,
Oh, God.
it was. Am I right, Robert? I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
you get published. It's just mostly good enough to have other people pay for it. But at Mavericks, at that 9th Street studio, you know, me, Jamie Baker, Bosco Ing, we barreled into our forays in self-publishing. We self-published comics. We took them down to Comic-Con with a blown-out sign, tried to sell our books. Like, there was...
And meanwhile, Ronnie Del Carmen was at the table next to us.
Oh, and Enrico.
Selling tens of $1,000s. Making us feel pretty small.
Yeah, it was a classic Maverick scenario because so many Maverick scenarios were kind of like, a little less than. That's really funny.
That's what gave us that thick skin, man.
Those are the humble days. Well, let me transition to this. Like, what are you working on now? So you got these awards, you guys collaborated together, and then now you're doing your next venture, which we're already getting people talking about. Like, they want to find out more about NFTs. Like, some people are confused how that works, but you have an NFT drop that's coming, right? And that's all part of your next venture and your next idea that you're doing. Is that right?
Yeah. You know what? Look, I'm doing an NFT drop because I've got a bunch of artwork that's existing on these hard drives in the form of digital artwork and, you know, animation that I own outright, like my Parasiter and cigarettes.
Yes.
So I made an announcement. I made an announcement on Instagram a couple of days ago about, hey, I got my first NFT drop with Legend, you know, who claimed to use, you know, a kind of a blockchain technology, which isn't harmful to the
it's eco-friendly, right? It's a little bit more thoughtful.
That's what they say. That's right.
Yes.
And holy shit, I got over 200 messages on my Instagram, which I've never had that kind of engagement before, and 50% of them were like, "Fuck you." You are disgraceful. I'm so disappointed in you. And the other half was like, yeah, go for it, man. It's great. So, I mean, I've never had that kind of engagement before. And I'll tell you what, I kind of didn't read the comments at first. But then after a while, I started to like, okay, I'm going to start to open this up and get into the comments. And I read them. And you know what? A couple of nights ago, I was awakened by a thought. The thought was I had composed a message in my head. It was a message in my head that I thought that I would include in my next Instagram post. And can I read it to you?
Sure. Yeah. You could share it, bring it up on screen if you have it.
No, awesome. Okay, here it is right here.
Okay.
This is it. To you NFT haters out there, not all blockchains are created equal. Proof of stake blockchains are use infinitely less power than proof of work blockchains. The collective annual usage of Ethereum or Bitcoin is comparable to, say, that of a small country, let's say New Zealand or something. Whereas the carbon footprint of something like Wax, which is a different blockchain technology, is comparable to the usage of about 5 average Americans. That's the whole platform, right? 5 average Americans. I'm not saying that's nothing, but things like email, Facebook, Instagram, Netflix, and even your precious Pornhub use also leaves a carbon footprint. So if you really care about the environment and wanted to leave me a message, then you would put your device down and hand deliver me a message to the following address, which is 420 1139 West Georgia Street, Vancouver, BC, which is the Trump Tower in Vancouver. By the way, you're always welcome to stay for lunch if you want.
That's awesome. I love it. And so when is that happening? So people who are interested can follow you, can find out about it. And like, you can get a Robert Valley original. And I think just any opportunity to get that is going to be amazing.
Yeah, well, listen up. You know, even though I'm going to write that, and maybe I might put that on my next Instagram post or not, people are so fucking triggered about NFTs right now that they might not even read the description in your email.
Right.
They'll just get triggered. And I don't know if they're, I don't know. It's fucking weird, man.
Yeah. I mean, Amanda here is saying, I put this up on screen. Interesting perspective. Thanks for sharing this with us. You know, a lot of people are curious about this. Obviously, Amanda is too. And then we're getting a bunch of comments about that as well. I don't think people know that much.
The worst one. I want to hear the worst one.
Actually, you know, people seem to be pretty kind on this. Well, you know, some people are like, well, okay, what's an NFT? Actually, Derek, have you experimented with any of this?
I don't know. I have nary a notion. I had a sense of NFT equals some kind of digital art, currency, something, and that's about the extent of it. And the statement Robert just read, if I'd heard him speak that to me, and I don't know if I don't track it today. I think there's just a complexity in that cryptocurrency in that realm that I'm just less exposed to. But it's interesting, you know.
Yeah, I mean, let me give a little bit of background for those who know. Yeah. I mean, it's a non-fungible token, which means you get a unique digital stamp. So it becomes a unique, think of it like a digital baseball card or something that's like one-off that's completely collectible. That stamp is verified by the blockchain, right? And then these are running on cryptocurrency, so it's not fiat currency that you're going to get in the government. So fuck the government. We don't want them involved in this kind of stuff. And it's completely traceable, trackable. And for the artist, right, correct me if I'm wrong here, that it's something that you can verify as the creator is something that you have given your authenticity and a stamp to, just like, you know, like a baseball player would sign their baseball card, which is a unique thing that only exists once, right? So it's the digital format of that kind of.
So is it like you're running off a limited edition of 2,000 prints, and each one is an individual thing?
Not even that much. Like
no,
it's
a very unique
10 or something.
I see. So super limited edition of coded digital representation of artwork that when people are paying for, or is it like how do people?
Oh, they're paying for it. It's like buying stock in the stock market.
Right. So somebody's, you know, transacting, and is it a Bitcoin transaction, or is it like?
Well, it depends on the currency that you're using, right? You're using one.
Legend will accept credit card payments and USD and all this sort of.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, but
and then it's all the buzz now, like Bitcoin and Ethereum and all that.
What a complex, strange world we're living in.
It is, and
it's fucking burning, and the air quality is insane, and it's like unrealistic, man.
I will say this though. I mean, think of how much waste goes into what happens with just regular operations of currency and money and all this junk that we've been carrying around for whatever centuries, right? Coinage, right? All this stuff. Cryptocurrencies, yes, we want to do it in a, let's say, more streamlined way. But the one advantage I say with artists is that these things are trackable and traceable, and that you can exchange it without giving something back to the artist. As far as I understand, if the artist creates that history of it will live on forever inside the blockchain. So you can verify it. And also if you set it up in a certain way, an artist can get royalties and can get copy. You know, these are one of the exciting things is like when it comes to filmmaking and stuff, the rights for, let's say, music, the rights for movies, the rights for all that stuff can be more transparent than it is now. That's one of the hopes, at least, that it gets there, right?
Yeah, so power goes out.
Barring like apocalypse or like,
which is hard to, can we bar the apocalypse? I don't know, man.
Yeah, I feel that. So when is this going to drop? How about that? What's the date that people can find out about this, and where can they go to follow you if they want to get more involved with this kind of thing?
It's dropping on the 16th of September. Yeah.
All right.
And it's on Legend, LGND.com. And the reason why I'm working with those people is because, they say that they're using a wax blockchain, which is, apparently, better than the other blockchains. And really, I didn't really want to get into the whole fucking discussion about like carbon footprint and everything else with this stuff. So I did my research and I decided, look, I'm going to work with these guys because, you know, they're actually, there's a bunch of people that are involved in the animation industry. So I immediately felt comfortable with them. And then the addition of them kind of using like a environmentally, well, I don't know about environmentally, but, you know, a blockchain, which, you know,
yeah, it's more thoughtful.
Let's say it's 125,000 times less, it leaves less of a carbon footprint than other blockchains. You know, like I thought, okay, this is good, but still, holy shit, man. People are going to come at me and, you know, whatever, man. It's okay. I got the comment for it. If you want to leave your fucking comments, I'll read all of them. and I can take it because you can suck a dick.
Always on the cutting edge. That's what I think of you guys. It's just very, very progressive and moving this stuff forward. Well, awesome. I think, well, Derek, I want to ask you, like, what are you working on? I know you're giving a talk tomorrow that is Pixar related, but is there, maybe tell people what you've been doing recently and what the future holds. Only things, of course, that you can tell publicly, right?
Totally happy to share. I just finished a couple months ago. I just wrapped on Lightyear, which was Angus MacLean's Buzz Lightyear project, which comes out next summer. And I was in story on that show for over 3 years. So that was the last big production I finished. And I've been working for the last year or so at the studio as a SOM, which is kind of story outreach mentor. I have various responsibilities, internship, residency, artist support kind of stuff, creative. And so I've been dabbling, or not dabbling, but involved in that work. But the last meaty show that I finished was Lightyear. And I think there's a trailer attached to Encanto in November. Look for the Lightyear trailer.
All right.
Yeah, and then BKO and I, BKO, my long-time friend.
Yes, Brian Kalin O'Connell, amazing artist too.
O'Connell, are doing a presentation at 11 tomorrow about story at Pixar, crafting a compelling portfolio and anecdotes and art and like that.
Yeah, like, you know, I don't know if you saw this, Robert. Like last year we did a benefit auction for a good friend of ours, mutual friend. And Derek did a talk with Ted Methot, who's another longtime Pixar veteran. And you guys killed it. Like the knowledge that you dropped there was just mind blowing. I was sitting there moderating this thing. And I'm like taking notes and just, you know, kind of geeking out about all that stuff you do. But you mentioned that you do a lot of mentoring and you do training internally of the artists that are working at Pixar. Is that right?
Yeah, I do. I support, mentor, you know, work with different artists to different degrees, depending on, you know, whether they're in the internship or in the residency program or former residents that are in the department. And we're still trying to do therapy with each other. BKO and I are in therapy like every day. We've known each other for 32 years, since 1989.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's a different kind of conversation. But I find it really stimulating. I've loved teaching. I've done teaching. I started teaching when I was in art school as like a teaching assistant for some drawing workshops and stuff. And periodically I've come back to like teaching kind of experiences, mentor things. And I find it really enriching. I find it educational. I'm constantly learning that way. There's something about being engaged with people and working collectively to make stuff better and process that is really helpful. And there are times when you're working on jobs, when you've been in business as long as Robert and I and you, Sergio, have been, there are times when that sort of cynical or jaded thing can wash over you on a job or a prolonged headache or whatever. Pick your poison kind of headache-inducing scene you're dealing with on any given job for many different studios. To be able to have that teaching and mentorship connection, it just feels human. It feels healthy. It feels like good. So I like that kind of work. And so I'm glad to be able to get into that.
Man, you guys are both so generous, because Robert, you also did a talk with us and did some character design stuff. And in the past, you've always been a great friend of, you know, what we do here. We have a mentorship program as well. I fully like second what you're talking about. Like if I didn't have people over my shoulder showing me what I should be working on doing, I don't think, you know, I'd be around much because it's so hard to learn these things. I'm not naturals like you guys, but it's just amazing that you're giving back. So it's so awesome how generous.
You're a natural, Sergio. I've seen your drawings.
Man, I'm a hack. And I've copied both of your drawings. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I have your books and I collect them, and I think it's like that's the way to learn, right? You got to copy from the best. So
I've copied, that's for sure.
Do you have any vivid memory of like a comic book cover or something that you copied when you were a kid? Was there like any?
Oh man, I remember it's like Frank Miller stuff.
I remember. I think one of the most vivid and only like fully committed kind of cover efforts I did try and redraw the cover. I was like 14. And I tried giant size X-Men #1, and I tried on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and I spent some time with it. And I don't remember doing that practice much after that one, but that Dave Cockrum drawing was the one I tried to do this.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I used to draw the Bat Out of Hell cover from Meatball or Meatloaf or whatever. And
is that a Corbin painting?
I don't know what it is, but
I know that Richard Corbin did at least one Meatloaf album cover. So it's possible that's a Corbin painting that you were studying, which is awesome.
But I was like in grade 3, and I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna do this drawing today. And people would go out to the school, to the courtyard and go, Robert's gonna do the drawing of the Meatloaf cover. You gotta go and watch it. And there'd be a little audience of people there. They're like, "Oh my God, he just shaded in a wing," and stuff like this.
That's so rad. Hey, how about we take some questions? There's a bunch of people that are asking stuff here, and I guess these are just random. I don't think they're in any particular order, but if you guys have any questions for these guys, now's the time. Just type it in there, and we'll see.
Lightning round. Let's get
lightning round. So here's one. Obviously we have an educational focus. What we're doing this week is Lightbox Expo. Derek is talking about Story Tomorrow. This whole week we've been telling people about our mentorship program. We have like a challenge event for people to actually do storyboards too. So this one is coming from Renaissance Girl. Maybe you can sum up what are the tips here. What skills do you need to have for storyboarding? This is a really general question, but what do you guys think you need to, let's say, get ahead as somebody who wants to do story?
That's in your field there, Derek.
Draftsmanship, understanding of composition and camera, a sense of acting and performance, a way to convey emotion through character, drawing ability and clarity of your drawings is super, super important. I mean, it's a really broad question. But definitely drawing skills, an eye for camera, a love for film,
Right on. And then any tips for you, Robert?
No, I mean, look, it's different if you're storyboarding for 2D or 3D.
Yeah.
Like, for example, when we were working on the Frankenstein project, we were over rendering those drawings because that film was always going to be 3D at the end of the day. So I don't know, like, I guess some of that stuff is useful for lighting and performance and this sort of thing. But really, at the end of the day, you have to draw to the needs of the medium that you're working for.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point. And, for me, when I finally got to Pixar, I worked in a lot of different storyboarding disciplines. So I had done visual effects storyboarding, live action feature storyboarding, animated feature storyboarding, video game cinematic storyboarding, in-game video game storyboarding, and comic books. So I had like 6-7 examples of storyboarding within different mediums as my portfolio. So I think there was a lot to learn about what crosses over between those. But when you're boarding for visual effects, for example, you're having to use a lot more arrows, you're annotating, you're giving indications of things. And that's going to be different than the skill set you're going to need to do episodic TV animation storyboards, feature storyboards, whatever, or comic books or mini comics. So having a willingness to dabble in various versions of that is a good thing.
When I'm doing my own storyboards, I know that further down the production pipeline, I'm going to see those same storyboards. Like, I'm not sending them off overseas. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't get put in a package and like, goodbye.
Right.
You're going to go like, goodbye, and it's going to go whoop, like right at the and you're like, oh my God, what is this thing that I just storyboarded out? You know, like you have to be mindful of the knock-on effect with what you're doing, you know, and because I storyboard and I do the layouts and I animate as well, you know, I understand, you know, what the knock-on effect is going to be. And so I'm always mindful of that kind of stuff. I don't do much stuff for 3D. Most of it's for 2D. But holy shit, those storyboards are super useful.
Oh, yeah. I couldn't agree more. All right, let's go to another question here. This one, let me bring this up from, looks like Cesar David 59. This one's a softball for you, Derek. It looks like people are searching for you already.
I know.
Do you have a social media to follow, like Instagram or Twitter?
It's so
Get it,
terrible.
boy.
It's so
Get
terrible.
it.
I know. This is my big. I have people who are like,
You want me to start one for you?
I'm not on Facebook. I'm not on Twitter. I'm not on Instagram. I have a blog that I had, which was derekmonster.blogspot. I haven't posted on for 13
Just
years.
get an Instagram.
No, it's stupid. It's
I
stupid.
think
There's a
shout out,
website.
you get 100 followers like
You
that.
can look up
Like a million, yeah.
but I promise it's been on my mind for many. It's bad. Bobby Chu gave me a lecture about this too, like 2 years ago when we were in Toronto.
You know what I'm doing?
I don't know what's happened.
You know what I'm doing right now is I'm opening up an Instagram page for you right now.
This is actually pretty common. I found this with a lot of people because the best guys are always so busy that they don't have time. Like, you know, I don't know, you tell me, Derek, if this is the case, that you're in demand, like you're working on a production, you don't have time to worry about your social media, right?
I have no excuse. I think whatever anxiety or reservations I had from the beginning with Facebook and Twitter and all that, I think I could be on an art-based Instagram of like Derek Monster Art and do my stuff there. And it makes total sense. I have all the archives. I got piles of stuff. It's just some switch hasn't turned to just like, I know, Van, I know.
You know, look, you got a regular job, Derek. You do. But I have a regular job too. Yeah. And sometimes when I don't have my regular job, I want to push my own projects forward. Okay.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
And the only way you can get any sort of traction on that shit is if you share it. And you need to share your work. And because at a certain point, maybe there's something you want to do. Like I have a book launch coming out.
Yeah.
Or I have a Kickstarter, or I'm going to do an NFT, or I'm going to.
I'm really excited about this NFT prospect, man. It's like you're like, hey, it's totally great.
There's going to be people hunting me down here pretty soon. But like I said, you'll suck a dick, anyways.
But this is a good segue too. Is like okay, you're talking about using an audience, building up some kind of following.
Yeah.
Which I think, Robert, you post anything and you're going to have thousands of people already follow. Like I think that's something that happens organic. Same thing with you, Derek. If you ever open an Instagram, you're going to just be bombarded with people following you. But okay, this one from Lewis Walker is asking, what do you guys find are the best ways to push through in getting a project through to the finish line? And I guess another thing that I would add on to this is when you're doing your own project, how do you actually get that started? Like what are you looking to do? If you want somebody to, you know, everybody seems to have a Netflix show nowadays. Like how do you actually get that started?
Oh, what? How do you get your own Netflix show?
Yeah, like what do you do to get traction?
How do you get that Netflix deal, Robert?
Was that the question? Oh my God.
This one, okay, so the question here from Lewis is, okay, what are the best ways to push through in getting a project done to the finish line? Well, you guys are super disciplined. I think, I don't know, it's almost like hard. At least I've known the work ethic that goes on behind you.
Deadlines are a good motivator, you know, delivery. That's if you're working on jobs for other people. If you're working on your own projects, your relationship with deadlines really shifts. And, you know, I don't know. I mean, Robert can probably speak more to this, having produced sort of more ambitious projects like Parasite and Cigarettes and the graphic novels and the multiple components, the NFT, for God's sake. But getting through the finish line it's always a trick. It's always a trick.
Yeah, I mean, you did well. I've known that, I guess we should mention this, that when you did your Oscar-nominated short, which I still think you got robbed on that one. That award should have gone to you.
Rob Valley.
Is that that was something you did
Valley.
on your own? You started it, you created it, you basically animated that thing by yourself, and I mean, amazing. Like, how did you even get through that? It was like a 3 or 4 year process, right? And then just to back off that, Paul here is saying, Robert, your style and boards made such an impact on me in my artistic work when I first started as a creative artist. Awesome work on Influx and projects you've created over the years. So there's some compliments here from Paul and Jelly. Thanks, buddy.
Are you going back to Influx or? Well, Peter left a pretty big impression on me, Peter Chung. But look, okay, as far as my own project goes, things were going pretty good for me at that time. I was making some money. I had a regular job. But I wasn't satisfied. There's something about my personality that I'm not truly satisfied unless I'm pushing my own shit forward. And the money thing and everything else, all that stability is nice, but I want to have that, but I also want to do my own shit at the same time. Okay. So that's the puzzle I've been trying to figure out. So, back in 2013, I remember I took my wife and my kid was like 2 or something, to the restaurant down the corner. And I announced my plans. I said, you know what? I'm going to stop working and I'm going to just work on my own film for the next few years. And my wife goes, are you shitting me? And then Jackson, he's like 2. He goes, yeah, are you shitting me? I'm like, no, because look, there's no sense starting a project and not finishing it. There's no sense doing that. It could be the best idea in the world, but if you only get 60% or 80%, it's still an unfinished good idea. And that doesn't do shit for you. I know, it doesn't. I've seen it happen. So when I locked into this thing, to me, it felt like a long walk. Like I was walking from Vancouver, where I am right now, down to the southern part of Florida, because that's what it felt like. And there's a certain point where I crossed the bridge downtown. Once I crossed the bridge downtown, then I was past the point of no return. That was the point where I was locked into this project, and I was going to finish it regardless of what happened. Because you had to finish what you start. Like I said, it doesn't matter if you don't finish the best idea in the world. It's more important if you finish a fucking stupid idea. At least it's out there circulating around. Yes. And it's real. It's fucking real. And what I did is I finished a film that was weird. That film was weird. It had no fucking plot that made any sense, because life doesn't make any sense. And the main character you didn't like because he was an asshole. And, the end of the story was a bummer. But you know what? That's what life is. And I didn't want to tell a fucking perfect story. I wanted to tell a real story about real events. And I finished that story, that film. Took 3.5 or 4 years to do. And I finished, I was like, oh, man, I'm feeling pretty good about that. And then we submitted it to all these festivals, and one by one, they all went, nope, 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 not interested. And then even online, we released the film. It was just completely underperforming. So as happy as I was with the film, the performance was really disappointing. And I thought, holy shit, okay, now what are we going to do? Yeah. And then my producer said, okay, don't worry about it, because we're still going to submit it to the Academy Awards. And there's a back door you can do through that. What you do is you have to have your film play in Los Angeles County for 2 weeks, and you have to have a little sort of thing running in like LA Weekly or something like this. And once you get that, you get the certification that you've qualified for the Academy Awards, and it gets put in the list with all the other 80 films. That's what we did. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and you nominated. You got nominated for the Oscar, which is amazing. You're Academy member for life.
We went from 80 to 10 to 5, and that's the nomination. And then once we got to 5, then all the festivals that didn't want us before, now they're asking us to come back again. You know,
right?
Because it was endorsed.
And now screw them.
So go suck a dick.
All right. Hey, Derek, this one is coming at you. So Ben Guy here is asking, so now do you have any personal projects that you're working on? Do you have any time to work on personal projects?
I've had a long, simmering, long gestating personal project that's kind of like a sequel expansion to a short comic thing I did for Afterworks 3, which was the Egg Sucker, and sort of an expanded sequel idea. And that's been simmering and getting no traction for over a decade, or by a decade, like way too long. I even did thumbs. Like I want to make time and carve time for personal creative projects. I've, in my life and in my career, recognized the value of that. Robert, you're, speaking my language when you talk about the importance of having that original personal stuff. But for whatever reason, between the intensity of the job, the complexity of the thing, I haven't made as much traction on personal things as I would like. And I don't know if it's just like a phase in my experience or whatever, but I certainly want to make time in the future and not lose that piece of my creative identity.
No, that's fantastic. And actually, that's probably a good segue into this. We're almost at the end of this talk. Thank you guys for hanging out. There's a ton of activity going on in the chat, and people loving the comments here. A lot of just emojis and LOLs and all that stuff for all the things that we're talking about here. But I want to know what's coming up in the future. So you got the NFT drop. You're working on your own projects. So what are both of you guys going to be doing for, let's say, the next year, next 3 years? What's the plan? Anything that you can tell the audience here?
Oh man!
You want to start? Oh, you want to start, Rob? Here, yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Is there going to be another Love, Death, Robots short? After this, they have to have another sequel. I mean, Emmy award-winning stuff, and just it's been so popular on Netflix.
Well, there's a season 3 coming out next season in 2022, and Alberto's going to have something in there, and because they split the next season up into two different seasons. That's why there's fewer episodes in each one.
Okay.
That way they could roll them out a little sooner to keep it warm. But yeah, you know what? There is something that's brewing. I can't talk about it. I'm super excited about it. I don't know if it's going to happen, but if it does, I'm going to shit my pants every day of the week.
Good. I hope we can hear about it once it hits. That sounds cool. And then Derek, how about you? Is there anything that you can speak of publicly that's working on? Like you've been at Pixar for how many years now?
17 years.
17 years. That's amazing.
You could have had a kid and then he could have moved out by now.
I know, it's ridiculous. I mean, I already worked in the business a long time before I started at Pixar. I was at ILM for 6 years. I worked in comic books for years. I freelanced at Mavericks for many years, electronic arts, all kinds of stuff. So when I started at Pixar, I was already feeling withered. But I would love to announce more exciting things in the near future, but pretty much as steady as she goes right now. Just a lot of moving pieces at work, a lot of busyness.
Great. That's so awesome. And look at some of these comments going on. I'll bring this up. This is Charlie Canfield. We know Charlie. He says, shit your pants every day in a good way.
Hey, Charlie.
And then look at this one from Shivani.
In the world. Derek
would love to be mentored from you and gain all the knowledge. You got a lot of love here, Derek. This is another one from Spatako. It's like, Derek, I will come work for you and help you with those projects and get them off the ground. So both of you guys are just amazing, and I don't think you have any shortage of help if you ever announce something like that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
See your faces, you guys. It's like always a treat. It's been a minute, but it's nice to see you guys. Thank you, Sergio, for hosting us and moderating the conversation and keeping us on.
The honor and pleasure is all mine. I guess, just to kind of end on this one is, where can they find you? Okay, we've already had that discussion. You're probably not on social media, but I think, at least for Derek, right, we'd want to follow the Pixar stuff.
If you're interested in contacting me, or you want to communicate about mentorship or share your art, you can email me at derekmonster8@gmail.com.
Wow.
derekmonster8@gmail.com. That's the best I can do until I get my potentially soon Instagram. I've had people like come to me and volunteer to help. It's going to happen. Just thank you for your patience, everybody.
Don't worry, man. I think you're doing a service just being awesome out there.
Derek, have you looked into Instagram to see if they have a Derek Monster handle yet there?
Yeah, that's the stuff. I have a couple combinations and variants to look at, but yeah, that's the direction to go.
Look, hey, you got at least 2 years of posts in there that you could do. You do a post every day.
Yeah.
Something like me, I like to post at about 6 or 7 in the morning. Because the European crowd, it goes through New York.
Nice to think of the European crowd. That's smart.
Well, it does, and then it makes its way to the West Coast, and then you get the biggest bang for your post dollar, and then you do it every day, and then boom, you get a couple of shout outs from your buddies.
Yeah.
You go from 100, you get to 1,000. Once you get to 1,000, it starts to get momentum, and then you're in there. So the first while is a bit of heavy lifting, but hey, I know you can do it, buddy.
I love you, Robert. Thank you.
That's a great note. And then, Robert, to find you, where can they find you? I know you're on Instagram, and you obviously website it's still robvalley.com, or is it just Robert Valley, the full name?
I'm working on my website right now, but Instagram is always the best place to go. And look, I don't know why Instagram always outperforms all the other social media. I post the same fucking thing, because you link it all to your other social media. Twitter, I can't get Twitter going. I don't understand Twitter. And Facebook, it seems to be falling flat. All the performance is happening on Instagram right now. So, that's what I focus on. So, go to the Instagram page or don't. I don't give a fuck what you do, really.
All right. Well, September 16th, that NFT drop is coming from Robert. And man, both of you guys, I can't thank you enough for being here. I really appreciate you coming on. And speaking of mentoring, I should mention we also have our mentorship program. Maybe if we're lucky, we can get you guys to come on again, at least give a couple tips for those of us who want to learn something from these amazing guys.
Hey,
but
I got Derek Monster, the handle right here, buddy. You want to make it? You got to make the password. Okay, Derek?
What's that?
I got Derek Monster on Instagram. You want to go for it? Oh,
shit, really? Okay, well, let's talk
All right, I'm going to sign up before you do that so it doesn't get shared publicly. But you guys hang out for a little bit. I'm going to do a little bumper movie and we'll be out. Thank everybody for joining us. It's so awesome that you could be here. All right, take care. You guys hang out. We'll talk in a second.
The mentorship experience has been the best learning experience that I've ever had about story.
It was a game changer.
It sort of felt like it's been an extension of my schooling experience. I think the consistency of work, the challenge of the assignments.
This entire system that you have going, it is so perfect for the time we are in. Right evolution of the formula of online schooling.